All right, yesterday we learned the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments are repeated here in this week's Torah portion, Ve'et Chanan. And after the 10 Commandments, the first commandment that it says after the 10 Commandments is this one. Shema Yisroel, listen Jews, God is our God, God is one. The word Shema really means to understand. So it's a commandment over here to try to understand God. How do you understand God? You have to understand from a person, you have to learn from a person who understands God. And so here we see that it is a commandment to learn the ideas of Kabbalah and Jewish, what do you want to call it, Chassidut, and deals that talk about God. Now, of course, you have to learn from a person who is genuine, who genuinely knows, not just somebody who has a little feeling for spirituality and can impress the crowd. Is that like that? No, we're talking about learning about God here, not just learning about spiritual levels and the upper spheres and worlds. Those are nice things, but the point is to connect it to God in a way you understand God in such a way that you come to love Him. You come to love God. So the purpose of understanding these Kabbalistic ideas, Shema, is to understand. First of all, it's an obligation for the Jews. The Jews have to understand. Excuse me. Okay, so what does exactly it mean? Listen, Jews, God is our God. God is one. What's going on over there? The question also is always asked, why does it say 2 times God's name here? Why doesn't it say Shema Yisrael? Understand, Jews, God, our God, is one. And also, what's these 2 different names of God? The Lord, our God, is one. Just say, listen, Jews, Elokeinu Echad, our God is one. Why do you have to have all these other names of God? So we'll look a little bit at the explanations. I'm going to tell you a few things what Hasidut says also. Suffice it to say that this is the motto of Judaism. This is the mission statement of Judaism. This is the main topic of Hasidut, especially Hasidut Chabad. To explain in a way that we can understand Shema, that God is our God and God is one. Rashi says like this. Understand, Jews, Shema Yisrael, that God is our God, God is one. Hashem, that God, who is our God now, and not the God of the nations, He is going to be one God. Now, none of the other nations in the world, there's a lot of religions, there's some religions that even claim to replace Judaism, and nevertheless, they don't believe in the same God as we do. So, Ein Kelokeinu, nothing like God. We've talked about this a lot, but the God of the Jews, like it says in the 10 Commandments, remember we learned that just yesterday. The God of the Jews creates the world, and also the God of the Jews took the Jews out of Egypt. So he's very active in the world and he cares. And this God that took the Jews out of Egypt, he gave the Torah. That's the 10 Commandments. When God gave the Torah, he said, I am the God. I means the one who's giving the Torah here. I'm the same God that took you out of Egypt. And the 4th commandment is that God creates the world. So only the Jews believe in a God like this. Other religions, of course, they believe in spiritual powers. Even those religions that try to copy or they claim that they've replaced Judaism, they did not get the message. They do not have the message that Judaism has. They didn't get the point of what God is. That's what it means. God nowadays is our God. And not the God of the nations. In the future, this God is going to be one. Like it says, in Sforno. Then I will cause all the nations to call out the name of God in a clear language. No one will call him by all these other weird names. The God that gave the Torah, the God that took the Jews out of Egypt, is the God that's creating everyone. So this God is infinitely close to everybody. And so everyone will worship the God who's creating them according to the Torah. And also knowing that this God is very active in the world. are very active in the world. And that's what it says. Like it also says in the prophet Zechariah, on that day, God will be one and his name will be one. God already is one, but his name is not one. There's all these other names that are given to him by all the other nations. OrHaChaim also says something like this, but we don't really have that much time. Oh wow. Woo. For some reason I am not in the my full power. Okay, we go. So it says the reason why does the OrHaChaim HaKadosh. By the way, if you look in the Sefer Torah, you'll see that this ayin is written big and the dalet is written big, which is aid, which means witness. We have to give witness. Jews are supposed to witness to the whole world that God is one. Also, even more, let's do the OrHaChaim or the Balaturim. It says the ayin is big because there are 70 different names which are given to the Jewish people when they got the Torah. Okay, and the Torah can be learned in 70 different faces to separate them from the 70 different nations. And there is a little bit of a break between Hashem and Echad. One second. Okay, also it says that why is the Dalet written big? To show that God rules over the 4 directions of the world. And also shouldn't make a mistake with a reish. Reish, it would mean the big. If it would be a reish, then there would be God acher. God is something else. That's what all the nations think, that God is something other than the world. But the fact of the matter is God is not something other than the world. Not to say that the world is God, but to say that the world is not a separate entity from God. God is creating it all the time from nothing. So so don't not to mistake the Dalet for a reish. Okay, that's right. We have to be a testifiers to the whole world. That's the Balachayim. Okay. All right, next. You should love God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and with all of your might. After you think about God, Shma, understand God, the goal is to come to try to love God. What does it mean to love God with all of your heart, all of your soul, and your might? You should love God. You should do everything from love. Do the commandments because you appreciate God, you value God, you love God. It's not the same thing as doing the commandments from love as from fear. A person who does the commandments from fear, it's a big effort for him. And as soon as the thing that he's afraid of, he'll stop doing the commandments. But if a person loves, so he's searching all the time how to do more for God. He appreciates God. The more you think about God, that God is creating us, that God gave us the Torah, God has took us out of Egypt, God cares about us. You have to love God with all of your heart. That's with your 2 hearts. Another one, that you shouldn't have your heart divided on God. In other words, sometimes you like God, sometimes you don't. With all of your hearts means with your egotistical nature and with your godly nature, they should both be devoted to the Creator. They're both being created by God. With all of your soul, what does it mean love God with all of your soul? Even if you are threatened with death, even if the non-Jews, they take away your soul, they tie these people to the stake, whatever it was, nevertheless, you still believe in God. And also with all of your modech, with all of your money. Some people, money is more valuable to them than their body. Therefore, it says you should love God with all of your heart, no problem. With all my heart, I love God. God is really good. With all of my soul, even if they take my soul, if I'm going to die, what about your money? Listen, you can take my life, but not my money. There's people that are like that. All b'chol me'odecha means every midah, every portion that you get in the world, whatever God apportions to you, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's difficult, nevertheless, you still love God. Like King David. King David had tremendous troubles in his life. He was a very good person, but he only had troubles. The book of Psalms is filled with it. And he said, Kos yishuot asa, a cup of salvation I will lift up. In other words, I need your help, God. But Sora v'yagonim sa, and all I found was pain and suffering. But let's just, there's a lot of explanations that I really wanted to do, but here the Sforno says you should love God, v'ahavta, you should be happy. You should be happy to do what God wants because it should be good in your eyes when you understand that there's no goal better than this. That's what it means, understand. Listen, we're in the world, everybody lives, everybody dies. What are we here for? So you can say, well, I'm here to have a good time for myself. But when you die, so there's nothing left of that, right? And let's say you did physical things, but your soul doesn't get anything out of that. You can say, okay, I'm here to go to the world to come. Okay, that's an option. That's something good. But if you think about God, you realize that thinking about the world to come is, how do you say, it's cheap. It's cheap. It's like being a doctor in order to make money. You don't care about healing people. It's supposed to be that when you come to think about God, you realize what an amazing privilege it is just to do anything for God, and you're happy to do it. That's called Simcha Shel Mitzvah. You should be happy. Simcha Shel Mitzvah. And these words that I am giving you today should be on your heart. What does it mean today? And these words, how do you show your love for God? By saying the words of Torah. By the way, this is right after the 10 Commandments. Because of you say the words of Torah, you come to recognize God and you cling to his ways. That I am commanding you today. What does it mean today? And when you say this, you should think the Torah is being given to you today. They shouldn't be in your eyes like an old letter. That a person, that a person doesn't value it. But it should be like a new letter that everybody's running, a new letter from the king. Everybody wants to see. So the Torah is this 3,300-year document. You can say, oh, okay, I know that. It's not such a big deal. But if you realize that it's being given by God who's creating you right now, then the Torah is very fresh. And you should teach it to your children. You should say the words of Torah when you're sitting in your house, when you're walking on the road, when you lay down, and when you wake up. Remember, we learned about that in Chassidut today. It says when you're sitting in your house means before the soul comes into the body. The means when the soul comes into the body until you die. The means when you die, you're in the heaven. And in the raising of the dead, you should say the words of Torah. It says you should teach these words. Shinantam means to be sharp. The words of Torah should be sharp, clear in the mouths of you and your children. When you're asked a word of Torah, you shouldn't stumble and mumble. It should be very clear to your children. Who are your children? Your children, simply. And also your pupils. The pupils are also called children, like we find every place where the pupils are called children. Like it says, Bani Matem, you are children to God, your God. And it says, Bnei Anavim, also in Chezkiyahu, it says the Jewish people are called his children, etc. You should speak the words of Torah. That should be the main speaking that you do. You should make them into the main thing and don't make them the secondary thing, words of Torah. Most people, the word, what's the main thing? You talk about politics, you talk about business, talk about things that are practical. So that's very nice, talk about those things, but that should not be as important as speaking the words of Torah, because the words of Torah are coming from the Creator right now. When you lay down, it says, what about if you lay down in the middle of the day? Should you say, also these words is also referring to Shma. From here we learn that you have to say Shema. It's a commandment to say it in the nighttime when you go to sleep. In other words, when the sun sets, when the majority of people go to sleep, and in the nighttime, and when you wake up in the morning, when people wake up, you should say Shema Yisrael. It's a commandment to say it twice a day. You should tie them as a sign on your arm, and they should be as totafot between your eyes. What is totafot? It says on your arm, this is the tefillin on your arm. This is the only place where this commandment is mentioned. I mean, it's mentioned 3 other places also, but it's in the same language, pretty much. It should be a totafot. What is totafot? These are the tefillin on your head. Why is totafot? I mean, there's no word in Hebrew called totafot. This is a word that God wrote specially here. Where is this word found, except for in the Torah? This is the Katfi people, whoever the Katfi are. It means 2, and the word pat in Afriki means 2. So even though God said this in the Torah, but somehow or other it rolled over into these other languages, that they're the only ones that use it day to day. And you should write them on the mezuzot of your house and on your gates. You should write them on the posts of your houses and on the posts of your gates. It says mezuzot, when you see in the Torah, it's written without a vav. All you have to have is one, mezuzat, like only one. Only one of the doorposts. And in your gate, this is also the gates of your yard and the gate of the city and the gate of the country, right? They used to have big walls around the country. You also have to put. And right after that, it says, and it will be, that's it. That's Shema Yisrael. That's the first paragraph of Shema Yisrael. And it will be that when God brings you into the land that he promised your forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give to you, there will be cities, big cities, good cities that you did not even build. You'll take them all over. Says the Sforno. 1 minute. Baal HaTurim says, why is this coming into the land of Israel right after Shema? So because to tell you that in the merit of Torah and Tefillin and Mezuzah, these 3 things, speaking Torah all the time, and Tefillin and Mezuzah, you will come to the land of Israel. That's what it's going to do. Mashiach will encourage all the Jews to learn Torah and bring them to the land of Israel. But be careful, don't forget God that took you out of the land of Egypt from the house of slavery. You should fear God, serve God, and call and swear in his name. It says, if you have all these qualities, then you will fear God and you will serve him. And then you will be able to swear in his name. What does it mean, swear in his name? That you'll be careful when taking oaths, because we are not today, so we don't make oaths. We learned that in the class in the morning. Don't go after the other gods and the gods of the other nations that are around you, because God, our God, is a jealous God. And maybe he's going to get mad. And he will evict you from the earth, from the land. Kick you out of the land of Israel, which that's what happened after the first destruction and the second destruction. All right, my friends, that we have learned basically what is Shema Yisrael. It's a commandment to say it twice every day. According to the Chidah, we talked about this before, one of the pupils of the OrHaChaim, the non-Jews should also say Shema Yisrael. They have to know, first of all, the Jews are special, and also they should know that the God of the Jews is eventually going to be the God of all mankind. The Maimonides, he brings a sentence from Jeremiah, I think it's Jeremiah 19:16, that all of the non-Jews are going to drop all of their religions, all of them, all the religions. There won't be any other religions. And the reason is very simple, because everyone will just worship the Creator. And the Creator is infinitely good, and people won't live in fear anymore of, burning in hell or something. God is infinitely good. He creates us. So we'll serve God from love. Everyone will in the world. Have a good day with Mashiach now.